Hey, what's going on everybody? Today on the channel we're going to be seeing what it's like to use the iPhone 12 here in 2025. Is this still a good option for consumers today? Apple is supporting devices longer than they ever have before, so let's jump into this and see what it has to offer today. So this particular phone, actually, I am borrowing from a family member. They just upgraded to a purple 16 Plus. And the reason for that is, number one, they just want a new phone, bigger screen, but also because the battery life of this iPhone 12 is suffering quite a bit. And we'll discuss that later on in this video. So I'm going to be comparing this phone a little bit to the iPhone 11. Obviously, this was the predecessor to that phone. And the iPhone 12 offered several new features and a slightly different design compared to the iPhone 11. Also, we had the legendary mini version of the iPhone be announced for the 12 and then as well as the 13. However, I guess nobody bought it enough and Apple got rid of it. But anyways, the iPhone 12 gave us quite a new thing. So obviously we have a bump in the chip. We went from an A13 to an A14 Bionic chip. It's funny enough, if you look at the kind of specs of that chip, I don't know what the actual Geekbench scores are or anything like that, but 6-core CPU, 4-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. That is literally the same specs that we have in the iPhone 16e that just came out. The cameras on this phone compared to the 11 were basically the same. 12 megapixel main camera with the ultra wide. The only difference was you're now able to do Dolby Vision 4K video at 30 frames per second. Essentially the same battery life and all that good stuff. The big thing though with the iPhone 12 is they introduced MagSafe, and MagSafe is obviously something that has kind of blown up over the years. A lot of people use it. It gives you faster wireless charging. You can use MagSafe chargers. There's MagSafe cases, MagSafe accessories like car mounts and different things like that. So the iPhone 12 was the first phone to introduce that. And the last major thing here is the introduction of the OLED display. So Apple calls it a Super Retina XDR display. It's basically a fancy word for OLED. So you got that. Let's talk about the design of the iPhone 12, and this design here kind of set us up for many years to come with iPhone. I mean, we've had this kind of same kind of squared off design. They changed this design from the iPhone 11, iPhone 10, 10s. They kind of had a more rounded design with those phones. This kind of squared everything off, and this makes this phone very nice to hold in the hand, and I really do enjoy it. They also thinned down the bezels quite a bit here compared to the iPhone 11 model, so that's nice as well. Obviously on the bottom we have a typical lightning port with our speaker grills. This is back when we used to use SIM cards, so there's a SIM tray, volume rockers, the typical mute switch that we no longer have, and the good old power button, lock button on the right hand side. On the back of the phone it is glass, but it is a nice, very kind of smooth feeling glass. The cameras are basically the same dual camera system, like I said, that the iPhone 11 had. But overall design still held up pretty good. The thing you'll notice with this though is the aluminum does kind of scratch up and chip. The person that had this phone was pretty rough with it. This was also the first time they introduced ceramic shield, although when you look at the screen of this phone, yeah, it's not cracked, but it sure is scratched up. I mean, definitely should have put a screen protector on this thing. Already kind of talked about performance of this phone, and the cool thing is, of course, that Apple is still supporting this phone. I mean, they're supporting phones even older than this. And you can run the latest version of iOS 18. Now, are you going to have all the features that iOS 18 has to offer? No, you're not, but overall you're going to have pretty much everything. And iOS 18 tends to run pretty good on this older hardware. Now, like I already said, the A14 Bionic chip is still pretty comparable in performance to some chips we have today in other phones. But as far as just navigating the system, opening applications, gaming, or doing different things like that, it is going to be plenty enough for most people. Now, if you're a power user and you do some more intensive applications, things like that, obviously you might notice some sluggishness or slowdown, but the performance of this phone is still very comparable. And a lot of people always complain too with iOS 18. Yes, I know iOS 18 is a pretty buggy operating system, but it's just so well optimized for Apple's hardware, and it runs really, really good on this old device. I mean, that's just probably the thing that's most impressive about it, and one of the things that allows you to keep using it for many, many years to come. I mean, I'm hoping that Apple continues to support this phone for another, few years. I mean, I would expect this phone probably to last through like iOS 20, maybe. But I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now, I already talked about battery life with this particular phone, and this is kind of typical of older iPhones. Batteries degrade over time. They degrade in literally anything that has a lithium-ion battery. Sometimes, though, they degrade a little bit more than others. And you got to remember that when this phone came out, Apple didn't really have as good of optimized charging or clean energy charging, things like that, battery health management that they have today. So this phone kind of sees more degradation as compared to like a newer iPhone would. So the battery health on this particular phone, it actually says service. When you go to the battery health, it says that it needs to be replaced, and the maximum capacity of this battery pack in this phone is only 79%. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means your battery is essentially gone by noon, especially if you use your phone quite a bit. I know the person that had this phone before me, they used their phone a whole lot, and they actually told me that, they would have to charge this phone at least 2 to 3 times per day. And that's pretty crazy. Now, you can obviously get this battery replaced. It looks like Apple is still servicing these phones. So if you want to, you can get this replaced by Apple. And I believe it was a little less than $100 to get it replaced by Apple themselves. So, that's not terrible. You might could save a little bit more money if you go third party, or you could just get a new phone. I mean, it's really, it's kind of up to you. The person that is getting rid of this phone said, why would I replace the battery for $90 when I could go get a new phone on a carrier plan for $10 a month? And I was like, well, but yeah, battery is one thing that's really suffered on this phone. And if you have an iPhone 12 mini, you're even in a worse boat because the battery is obviously smaller in that phone. So if you're going to keep using your beloved mini, you're going to have to get the battery replaced. Let's talk about the camera real quick. So the camera is very respectable, and it's really still a good picture-taking device here in 2025. Like I said, you have your 12 megapixel main camera, which is obviously not as high of a megapixel as the newer iPhones, but that's still really good. You also have the ultra-wide lens, and this phone does have portrait mode, and then like I said, you can record up to 4K video at 30 frames per second, I should say. So the phone, yeah, it takes pretty good pictures. You can get in there pretty close. You can zoom in on things, take good detailed pictures. Obviously, there's no like photographic styles or night mode or anything like that on this particular phone. Well, no, there actually is night mode, I guess, but anyways, the camera is still pretty respectable, takes decent photos here even today. Okay, so long story short here, with iPhone 12 and iPhone 12 mini, can you still use this device today? Absolutely. That is the answer, my final answer I'm going to give you here. This is still a really nice iPhone to use today. I love the 6.1 inch display. I feel like this is a perfect size for an iPhone. And literally, I have a 15 Pro Max, and I kind of regret it every single day with that bigger display. I don't necessarily mind the notch or the bezels. It really doesn't bother me. That might bother some people who want like an edge-to-edge display, or if you prefer a dynamic island. But really, this is not bad to use. And obviously, iOS 18, you can still update to the latest version. Hopefully, you'll have that support for another couple of years at least. The big thing, of course, with this phone that you have to kind of consider is the battery. So if you've been using this thing since day one, you're going to have to make the decision whether or not it's worth it to replace the battery and keep using your phone, or just go out and get yourself a brand new iPhone. I think personally, if you think that you can replace the battery, or you can just keep using the phone with the bad battery in it, Like, I feel like you could probably manage this battery in this phone. I mean, yes, you're gonna have to charge it more often, but for somebody like me, I typically put my phone on a wireless charger and it kind of just stays charged all day long. So, I mean, this phone is not terrible when it comes to that. You just have to manage your use case or you replace the battery. But I feel like replacing the battery is probably worth it to some people because even if you have to spend 90 to $100 at Apple to get it replaced, you're going to have basically a fresh new phone and you'll have a great new battery. And then iOS 18 has all the battery health management features, optimized charging, different things like that. So it can probably help extend your maximum capacity going forward. But yeah, guys, iPhone 12 still a great little device here to use here in 2025. It has everything you need and nothing you don't, in my opinion. Still a decent camera, good performance, latest version of software. So yeah, that's what I think about the iPhone 12. I wish I had an iPhone 12 mini to play around with. That'd be pretty cool, but unfortunately I do not. Anyways, guys, let me know if you're still rocking the iPhone 12 here today, and let me know what you plan on doing with it here in the future. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching the channel, and I'll catch you all in the next video.